I was driving for Costco a few years back. It was around this time of year we usually took extra toy shipments to various locations due to the holiday season. We got a call that one of our location in rural Kentucky needed to restock their giant Spider-Man dolls. They knew I was a fast driver, so I was giving the last minute late night duty. I loaded my truck and headed out on the 265. It was around 3 a.m. when I started to have this eerie feeling. I chalked it up to just being tired and popped a couple of no-dos. About 15 minutes later, the road started to fog up. I mean, more so than any other time before or since. It got to the point where I had to pull off to the side of and wait. There weren't any other cars on the road and I was ahead of time, so I figured I could wait until it cleared up a bit. About 5 minutes of sitting still in silence, my truck goes dead. No lights, no engine, nothing. I try my CB but cannot get anyone on. I check my cell phone and there is no signal. As I am sitting there contemplating my next move, I hear what sounds like a child crying. It slowly morphed into a woman crying, or at least that what it sounded like to me. Now I'm a big man, 6'3", 250 pounds, but I refused to exit my cab. I did roll down my window and asked if anybody needed help. At that point, the crying stopped. Then I heard what sounded like a sinister laugh. At that point, I felt like the laughter was directed at me. I rolled up my window, and it seemed like the more scared I became, the louder the laugh went. Then, as soon as it started, it stopped. And just like that, my truck started back up and the fog dissipated. I drove out of there like a bat out of hell. I get to the next truck stop and pull in. I run to the bathroom and pour down water on my face and ask myself, did that just really happen? I was driving through Montana headed east, and my company had miscalculated my mileage, so I requested an emergency fuel up. I got a response with the nearest gas station that I could get approved at. It wasn't exactly close, so I turned off the main highway and headed toward my stop. It's pitch black, there's no moon, no city light, and I haven't seen any headlight for about an hour. I'm cruising down the highway and I see something in the middle of the road at the furthest extent of my headlight. So I slow down, naturally, as I approach it. When I come to pass it, I get a good glance at it and slam on my brakes as I pass right in the middle of the highway. All I could think was, what did I just see? So I back up looking in my mirror until I see its red silhouette in my brake lights. I pull my brakes, put on my jacket, and grab my flashlight and hop out. I walked to the back of my trailer and put my light on it, and there it was, a headless, skinless, mangled corpse. I froze and my jaw dropped. I didn't know what I was looking at. I just stood there in the middle of the highway. In the cold, stagnant air, the only sound is the hum of my truck 50 feet back, watching the steam rise from its pile of meat. There was no fur, there was no clothing, just a fully intact ribcage with a mess of other miscellaneous bones attached by ligaments. I debated calling the police, as the ribcage looked big enough for someone my size. But I looked at my phone and had zero cell service. The nearest town was about 50 miles out. When I put my phone away, I flashed my light around, and standing at the end of the road were a handful of coyotes, staring at me. Then they started coming through the fence and trotting my direction. I figured this is the part where I get back in the truck before I get into a situation. So I did, and continued on my way. I still to this day do not know if it was human or not, whatever it was, and whatever had happened. I was almost a witness of. I convinced myself that it was more likely a deer that was hit by another truck like my own at highway speed. That would definitely do significant damage, but in retrospect, I've never seen roadkill missing its flesh before. I was driving through Kansas on I 70 at night once when I hit one of the craziest thunderstorms I have ever seen. It was so bad the road started flooding a bit and I had to pull into a service plaza and wait it out. When the creepy part happened, as I was sitting in the truck watching the storm, there is a series of lightning strikes followed by a blackout. Suddenly, a massively bright light starts moving behind the clouds, too slowly to be an aircraft but too fast to be a part of the storm system. It moves up over the hills, trees before crossing directly overhead, then disappears a bit behind the service plaza. The transit from tree line to plaza took maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and while it was overhead, it cast everything in an eerie blue glow and lit up the parking lot. I seriously thought aliens were invading. Anyway, within 10 minutes of the creepy light disappearing, the rain completely stopped and the parking lot lights came back on, like someone flipped a switch. I got out of there while looking in my mirrors for spaceships or those alien walkers from War of the Worlds.